Good morning. This is May 28th, 2020. I woke up this morning, turned on the news, and saw the most despicable footage I've seen in a long time. First of all, a few days ago, a police officer in Minneapolis killed a young black man. And then, of course, there's riots going on through the night last night, and I'm afraid they're going to continue, not only in Minnesota, but they'll start across the country. I feel obligated, and I'll try to make this short, and I'm talking to cops right now. What in the hell is going on? My family has been involved in law enforcement for over 100 years. My dad, my uncle, my brother, and I have well over 100 years in law enforcement. This is not the way cops enforce the law or make an arrest. I remember the riots in '65 in Watts. I was in Detroit in '67 when the Detroit riots happened. In '91, I was a trainer at the police academy in Colorado Springs when the Rodney King incident happened and riots happened in LA and other parts of the country. And of course, we've all witnessed other riots. I'm going to make this short and to the point, and I may make a fool of myself, and I don't really care. I've done other videos where I've talked about how difficult it is to hire cops today because of the image. And this is the reason. I was involved in sports with some very high-level athletes, professional-level athletes, a few of them. Many of them black, most of them black. And as we'd hang out and talk, before I was a cop, they'd tell me there's a racial tension going on in this country and it's going to erupt one day. I thought, yeah, maybe. Because at that point, I had seen what happened in Watts and I'd seen what happened in Detroit. When I got on the police department in 1981, a long time ago, I didn't see racial issues within the structure of the police department. And I worked with many agencies. If you look behind me, you'll see agencies I've worked with or trained with. I never saw racial issues going on there. But there's always that bad apple, that 1% maybe. I was a trainer. That's not how we trained. I don't know the whole footage. There's only a few really seconds shown on television right now of what happened a few days ago in Minneapolis. But what happened those last 6 minutes, apparently, that this cop had his knee on this young man's neck, is totally outrageous. If you've got that mentality, you don't belong in law enforcement. And for you that stood by and watched as people begged that cop to let him up, you're just as guilty. That is not how we're trained. You've got to step in and stop it. So again, this message is for cops. If you know of people that have that attitude, you've got to bring them to your supervisor's attention. You have to know when to de-escalate. Yes, there's an escalation of force, and sometimes it gets physical and you're scared to death. I've been there many times. And I've used techniques that probably weren't taught in the academy. I was an FBI defensive tactics instructor. And yes, I used techniques that I wasn't taught because I feared for my life or the safety of others. But I didn't kill anybody with my hands. You have to also know how to de-escalate. And for you supervisors, you chiefs, and I've been a police chief for many years, 17 years, my last 17 years of law enforcement as a police chief. You need to train your officers differently. Someone has to step in nationwide and change this attitude. You have to know when to stop. We've got cops shooting people. The chokehold crap has got to stop. I realize when you're outsized and you fear for your life, you may have to resort to something like that. I'm not approving or condoning that. But when you're fighting for your life, you do what you have to do to survive. But there comes a point when you stop. When someone's cuffed down, face down on the sidewalk or the street, it's over. Apparently there were 4 cops at least at that scene. So every one of you cops that are watching this, you've got to change your attitude. You've got to change your conversation with one another. This has to change. The image is being destroyed. The law enforcement image is being corroded here by a few bad apples. I don't need to say any more to law enforcement. You know what I'm talking about. Do what's right. And for you, the community that's in the streets looting and rioting, please back off. I completely support your right to protest, and I'd be right there with you. I support you 100% for peaceful protest against what's happening. I fear for what's going to happen this summer. The tension of us all being confined to our homes with this virus crap. Everybody's got cabin fever. Boom, something like this happens, and I knew it was going to happen. And everybody lets all their energy out. We saw it last night. We're going to see it again tonight. We're going to see it through the weekend. And I'm afraid it's going to continue in other cities. And I hate to see where it's going to end. This country has to wake up and realize there is a racial tension just under the surface. We've got to end that. And the community, especially the black community, needs to realize that's not inherent in law enforcement. There's just a few that have that attitude. And then they let themselves get out of control. When the adrenaline starts flowing, the fight's on. I realize that. I've been there, like I said. But you have to know when to stop. I'm going to spend the next several minutes praying for this country, for law enforcement, for the black community, and for justice. Again, attorneys will drag everything out. And that's kind of how these problems kind of evolved. And if you've seen that video of mine, you understand what I'm talking about. I'm going to cut this short because I want people to watch it. And I want you to tell your other cop friends to watch it. If you're a cop and you're watching this, call your buddies, text them, whatever. Tell them to watch this and to wake their ass up and get control of themselves. We have to save the image of law enforcement. This country won't survive without law enforcement. We don't want to go to martial law, which we're getting close to. We don't want to force our military, our National Guard, and our reserves out on the streets to protect people. But because of a few bad apples, we're getting damn close. So you, as a cop watching this, spread it around. Get people to watch it. Tell them to wake up, get themselves under control, re-educate themselves, whatever. And you supervisors, you chiefs, you training officers, you people that run the academies, change your training. De-escalation has to be emphasized big time. You have to know when to back off. Thank you.